A delegation from Moscow is trying to secure the release of a Russian citizen who's been held without charge at Guantanamo Bay for more than a decade. The Russian officials are also looking into the ongoing hunger strike and the force feeding of detainees at the U.S. military facility. RT's Anastasia Churkina reports.
For the first time in 12 years, a Russian delegation spearheaded by the Foreign Ministry's Special Representative for Human Rights got access to visit the Guantanamo detention camp. The goal, meeting with the sole Russian prisoner, Ravil Mingazov, held there without charge for a decade and taking steps to push for the detainees' return to his homeland. We spoke to the top diplomat of the visiting delegation to get the details.
The U.S. government has not so far pressed any significant charges against our citizen. His presence in the prison at Guantanamo by itself is a violation of his basic rights, because all detainees are kept there, so to speak, in legal vacuum, there is no due process, there is no proper investigation, they are denied access to fair justice. We have been given an opportunity to tour a little bit the facility, but we have not been shown, most likely, all the details.
Putting extra pressure on the U.S. to shut down the scandalous camp was also on the agenda of the Foreign Ministry. The prison has been staining America's human rights and legal record, both at home and abroad, for years, leaving the detainees staring really into the abyss of indefinite detention. And just last week, the world saw the 12th anniversary of the first detainees of the war on terror being brought to the scandalous prison camp, which Obama made a promise to close on day one at the White House. Last year, the world's attention was returned to Guantanamo as the majority of the prisoner population was on a hunger strike for over 6 months, making world headlines and really forcing the Obama administration to refocus his attention, at least on words for now, to the detention camp. Although plenty of bureaucratic and political reasons continue to be used as an excuse instead of just shutting the place down. When we visited Guantanamo 3 months ago, we found out that at least 15 detainees were continuously being force-fed.
Before it's passed down the nose, we lubricate it, and we give the patient a choice. Do they want to have lidocaine, which is an agent that will numb the area, or if they want olive oil to lubricate the tube. Most of our patients have been using olive oil. They seem to like it. In fact, some of our patients are so used to this, they will describe which nostril they want.
About other aspects of prisoner life, however, there was a lot of secrecy. We were taken on a largely staged and prepared tour around the prison facilities without being able to see much of the real conditions that the prisoners live in. And speaking to any of them was, of course, out of the question, let alone seeing them, one or two of them actually, for more than a minute. A lot of secrecy and a routine tour around the premises also turned out to be the experience of the Russian delegation as well. Anastasia Churkina, RT, New York.
Lawyers for the Guantanamo detainees claim the number of hunger strikers at the prison has gone up in the past month and now stands at 33. But the U.S. military, which runs the facility, has refused to release any updates. The official excuse is that the figures are no longer relevant to, quote, more important issues like the well-being of the prisoners and the security of American personnel. We spoke to Clive Stafford Smith, who advocates for several of the detainees. He claims the U.S. military is using some painful tactics to try and break up the hunger strike.
If a prisoner from Camp 6, which is the least bad camp, goes on hunger strike, they automatically get transferred not just to Camp 5, but to Camp 5 Echo, which really has been the most abusive place in all of Guantanamo Bay. Prisoners are held in an all-steel cell and denied the most basic human rights, just as a punishment for going on strike. The force-feeding techniques are very much in action. Unfortunately, again, it's the very abusive force-feeding techniques. I mean, casting aside the question of whether it's ethical to force-feed at all, and the World Medical Association says it's not, unfortunately, the techniques they're using in Guantanamo are gratuitously painful. So, for example, and I've witnessed some of this, they used to leave the tubes up the prisoners' noses so that it didn't hurt so much. They're still pulling those tubes out every single time, twice a day, and forcing them back up each time. They're still forcing far too much food too quickly into the prisoner, making prisoners sick. If you're sick, they just carry on doing it. It really is horrendous what's happening.